Did you know there was once a gorilla who could talk to humans using sign language? A gentle soul who lovingly cradled kittens, cracked jokes, understood more than 1,000 words, and even showed an eerie grasp of driving a car? And what if I told you this extraordinary gorilla once contemplated the idea of death and left behind a haunting message before she passed? Today, I'm sharing the unforgettable story of Coco the gorilla, whose life forever altered how we view animal intelligence. On July 4, 1971, Independence Day in the United States, a baby gorilla was born at the San Francisco Zoo. She was named Hanabiko, meaning fireworks child in Japanese. Later, she became known by a simpler, sweeter name, Coco. No one could have predicted that this tiny, fragile gorilla would grow up to revolutionize the world's understanding of what animals are truly capable of. Coco's early days were far from easy. As an infant, she fell ill and had to be separated from her mother for medical care. When she was finally healthy enough to return, her mother rejected her. Alone and vulnerable, Coco was placed in a cage with unfamiliar gorillas. Her only comfort? A plush toy gorilla she clung to like a surrogate mother, hugging it tightly for reassurance through those difficult early years. Before being moved to Stanford, Coco lived in a small temporary enclosure at the zoo, lacking stimulation or enrichment. Her early months were marked by loneliness and hardship. But fate had a different plan. In 1972, a young graduate student named Francine Penny Patterson from Stanford University took an interest in Coco. Penny was working on a groundbreaking PhD project on interspecies communication and set out to teach a gorilla American Sign Language. At the time, gorillas were largely dismissed as less intelligent than other primates and often unfairly labeled as aggressive. Very few researchers wanted to work with them. Penny's experiment would go on to challenge and ultimately shatter these assumptions. The beginning wasn't easy. Traditional sign language instruction for apes involved guiding the learner's hands, but Coco didn't like being touched. She refused. So Penny adapted. She used patience and repetition, showing Coco an object, then repeatedly demonstrating the corresponding sign until the young gorilla began to pick it up. What Penny discovered was astonishing. Coco was a gifted learner. Unlike chimpanzees, who learn mostly by imitation, gorillas often learn independently. Coco not only absorbed signs, she modified them, and sometimes invented entirely new ones when she didn't understand a concept. She even signed to herself occasionally, as if thinking out loud, hinting at an inner world remarkably similar to human self-reflection. The very first sign she used? Drink. One finger to the lips, while the others curled inward. As time passed, something beautiful happened. A deep, enduring friendship formed between the young scientist and her gorilla pupil. Coco was moved from the zoo to a specially outfitted trailer lab at Stanford. She had her own room, but she roamed freely, often visiting Penny's quarters. Though the trailer included a safety cage, it was never once needed. By the time she was 3 years old, Coco had mastered around 200 signs. But it wasn't just about naming objects. She used signs to express emotions, preferences, and observations about the world around her. For example, when shown a photo of another gorilla about to take a bath, a task Coco disliked, she signed, "I cry." Upon seeing a horse wearing a bridle, she quickly signed, "Horse sad teeth." What truly amazed researchers was Coco's sense of humor. One day, she signed that she was a good bird and claimed she could fly, then paused and added she was only joking. Another time, she tugged on Penny's hair, giggled, then signed an apology. These weren't just cute antics. They showed that Coco possessed what scientists call theory of mind, the ability to recognize that other beings have thoughts, emotions, and experiences separate from her own. She also showcased stunning linguistic creativity. When she didn't know a word, she invented one. She once called Penny's ring a finger bracelet. Logical, isn't it? A tiny bracelet worn on a finger. She named a mask an eye hat. She looked into an empty cup and signed, "Drink no." And once, completely on her own, she described a swan as a water bird. She'd never been taught that term, but her mind made the connection instinctively. Coco also came up with a delightful name for ice cream, cold candy. These clever combinations prove something profound. Coco wasn't just memorizing signs, she truly understood them. She could blend familiar concepts to describe something new, showing deep cognitive and creative ability. Of course, skeptics were quick to argue that Dr. Patterson had simply trained Coco like a circus act. But the evidence painted a different picture. When Coco was alone, she'd hold full conversations with her dolls in sign language. She even tried signing with other animals. When they didn't respond, she turned to inanimate objects, signing to them as if hoping for a reply. That's not mere mimicry, that's communication. IQ tests place Coco's intelligence between 70 and 90, slightly below the average human range, but absolutely extraordinary for a non-human species. She could draw like a 4-year-old child, sketching her favorite toys and familiar elements from her surroundings. She even had a boyfriend, a male gorilla named Michael, who also learned sign language. Later, another gorilla named Doom joined them. Together, they became the first pair of animals to communicate using a human language. And no, they weren't just signing about bananas. Once, when Michael tore the leg off Coco's cherished doll, she flew into a rage and signed, "Dirty bad toilet." But perhaps the most touching chapter of Coco's life was her deep, heartfelt affection for kittens. In 1984, on her birthday, Coco made a special request. She didn't want toys or treats. She wanted a cat. Quick pause. Before we continue, if you're enjoying this story, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. It really helps us share more amazing stories like this. Thank you. Her caretakers brought several stray kittens for her to meet. Coco gently inspected each one before choosing a tiny, tailless gray kitten. She named him All Ball. Coco treated All Ball like her own baby. She carried him carefully on her back, cuddled him close, and even tried to nurse him. Despite her massive size, she was endlessly gentle, always careful not to harm her fragile little companion. Then, tragedy struck. Later that same year, All Ball escaped from the enclosure and was hit by a car. Coco's grief was immediate and heart-wrenching. When she was told what happened, she sat silently for a long time. Then came the soft, moaning sounds gorillas make when grieving, a deep, mournful expression of sorrow. She signed messages of sadness. She furrowed her brow. She pressed her hand to her cheek, the sign for sleep, and repeatedly signed, "Sleep cat." It was as if she were trying to grasp the permanence of her friend's sleep. In the days that followed, Penny noticed Coco continued making quiet, tear-like sounds. She refused to play. She ate very little. She signed sad, again and again. Coco had experienced a deep emotional loss, and she mourned it like any of us would. Over the years, Coco adopted other kittens, including Smokey and Lipstick, continuing to show her profound love and tenderness toward small animals. Her ability to love, grieve, and nurture made her seem uncannily human. On her 44th birthday, Coco received 2 more kittens, Miss Black and Miss Gray, named for their fur. Footage of the giant gorilla tenderly petting the tiny kittens went viral, touching hearts around the globe. But Coco wasn't only known for her language or her love of animals. She had a colorful collection of quirks, and personality traits that made her one of a kind. For instance, Coco had a fascination with the human chest. She would sometimes make curious gestures asking to see it. In fact, in 2005, 3 of Coco's caretakers filed a lawsuit claiming they felt pressured to comply with this unusual request, which Coco reportedly made through sign language. Controversies aside, one thing was certain: Coco had an extraordinary sense of self-awareness. By the age of 19, she passed the mirror self-recognition test, a classic test of intelligence that many animals fail. While most gorillas react to their reflection as if it's another gorilla, Coco recognized herself instantly. She was often seen gazing into mirrors, inspecting herself, aware that she was looking at Coco. She also loved watching movies. Her favorite? Tea with Mussolini. Coco enjoyed television too, especially Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. When she finally met Fred Rogers in person, she instantly recognized him. She signed love and reached out to touch his sweater, the very one she had seen him wear on screen. And like many of us, Coco had a favorite bedtime story: The 3 Little Pigs. It was her go-to comfort before sleep. She was also emotionally affected by the content she watched. During the saddest scene in Tea with Mussolini, when the young boy says goodbye to his family, Coco would turn her head away. She didn't want to cry. The film Jurassic Park made quite an impression on Coco. The dinosaurs scared her so deeply that afterward, she hesitated to go near even her toy dinosaurs. Moments like this revealed just how rich and complex Coco's emotional world truly was. As her fame spread, so did public fascination. One of the most iconic photos ever published by National Geographic featured Coco cradling her kitten, All Ball, a tender, unforgettable image that captured hearts around the globe. Over time, Coco welcomed a host of visitors, including several celebrities who were eager to meet this extraordinary gorilla. One of the most
memorable, Robin Williams. From the moment they met, Coco and Robin formed a joyful, spontaneous bond. A now famous video shows Coco playfully wearing his glasses, inviting him to tickle her, and goofing off with laughter in her eyes. She remembered him, too. Whenever Robin appeared on television, Coco would immediately sign his name, clearly recognizing her old friend. When Robin Williams tragically passed away in 2014, Coco's reaction was as heartbreaking as it was human. She seemed stunned. Her usual brightness faded. She moved slowly, her expression solemn, and she remained quiet the entire day. According to her caretakers, she signed words like cry and sad, her way of mourning. She refused food for hours. She withdrew from others. She was grieving plainly and powerfully. It was clear she felt the weight of the loss, perhaps not just of a person, but of a connection. And Coco's gifts didn't stop at sign language. She also learned to use a computer system with symbols. She could type out messages that a voice synthesizer would then read aloud. She navigated menus on paper, drew symbols with pens, and even created recognizable sketches. Amazingly, she also explored music. Coco experimented with harmonicas, toy flutes, and simple recorders. In 2012, scientists were stunned to witness her blow into a recorder and create actual tones, something long believed to be physically impossible for gorillas due to differences in lung structure and vocal anatomy. But perhaps the most profound part of Coco's story was her understanding of death. One day, a caretaker showed her a skeleton and asked, "Is this alive or dead?" Coco signed, "Dead." When asked where dead gorillas go, she calmly replied, "Comfortable hole," and then gently blew a kiss goodbye. She didn't just respond. She reflected. Once, when shown a skull and asked whose it was, she signed, "Gorilla, dead." These were not rehearsed answers. They were signs of existential awareness. In her final years, Coco took on a new role as a spokesgorilla for the Earth. She used her platform to deliver a message, one that was both haunting and unforgettable. Through sign language, she warned, "Nature is watching you." It felt as if she sensed a duty, not just to herself, but to the wild gorillas still living in endangered forests. She wanted us to do better. On June 19, 2018, just weeks before her 47th birthday, Coco passed away peacefully in her sleep. She had been dealing with age-related issues, arthritis, respiratory trouble, but she was surrounded by those who loved and cared for her. That day, she had eaten well, interacted gently with her caretakers, and drifted off as if into a peaceful dream. There were no signs of distress, only quiet, calm acceptance. The world mourned her. The Gorilla Foundation released a statement that read, "Her legacy will live on, shaping our understanding of the emotional and cognitive abilities of gorillas." But perhaps Coco's most haunting contribution came in her final message to humanity, spoken in signs, felt in silence. "I am gorilla. I am flowers, animals. I am nature. Man Coco love. Earth Coco love. But man stupid. Coco cry. Fix earth. Help earth. Nature see you. Thank you." In her final days, she often signed the words love and good gorilla, as if offering comfort not just to herself, but to those she was leaving behind. Coco's life remains one of the most extraordinary examples of interspecies communication, emotional depth, and raw intelligence the world has ever seen. Were you touched by Coco's incredible bond with humans? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to remember that animals feel and love just like we do. Thank you for watching, and until next time, take care of each other and of this beautiful planet we share.